Hardest.
Calvin, do you want to take a nap? No. Do you want
No.
some
No.
breakfast? No. It's time to do homework. No.
When my kids object, I don't handle it the same way. I don't smile, lean in, and say I understand. I get pissed.
You're
I
like,
handle it way different.
doing it.
I handle it a little differently. So,
That's funny.
So,
all right. Well, we better get started, I guess.
yes, I'm clocking us now at 11:07. But before we get started, again, here's some quick Zoom tips and tricks if you guys haven't used Zoom before. And then also in the chat box, I provided the Dropbox link with the workbook, and then also the new updated 6 versus 7 that Nathan worked on. Big thanks to Nathan for doing that. That was awesome. So you'll find both of those in that Dropbox link. Also, feel free to post in the chat too. If you don't want to speak your questions out loud or anything, you can post there as well. So welcome to Listing Objections Part 1. And we're super excited about this class. So thank you guys for coming. We're going to do this class like the several that we've done last time, where we're going to keep it to an hour length. And instead of going through slide by slide or through the workbook, we're going to talk more just about the content and generate some ideas from you guys and try to support you more through just having a discussion around objections. So we're going to start it, and then I'll stop it at our hour time limit, and then we'll pick up where we left off next week. A couple things to remember with this objections class is that with any dialogue that's provided in the workbook or that you may hear throughout the class that somebody else brings to the table, don't be afraid to take that dialogue and make it your own. It's important that we're not robotic with any dialogue, so don't be afraid to just take something and mix it up with your own words and your own confidence level. And that's really what this class is about. So we also have some special guests. We have Mel back today and Jessica Bruce and all of you guys. You guys all bring wealth of information. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining. They're going to talk about kind of how they overcome objections in the field and any kind of examples they can give us. So we're really grateful to them for joining, and also to you guys for putting in your input. So don't be afraid to study the workbook in your downtime. There's a lot of great dialogue and examples in there that you can pick up and incorporate into your business at any time. So let's jump in and start talking about objections.
Hey, I just wanted to add, guys, make sure if anybody here, anybody who's on, if you have questions or maybe you've got a great script that you want to share. Oh, hey, little dude. If you've got objections that you specifically want to cover, we're gonna ask at some point, we probably won't be able to get through all of those. So this may be a 2-part class, maybe even a 3-part class. And also, please don't feel like you don't have value to bring, because if you've got something that you like to use whenever you hear an objections, we want to hear it from you, because everybody's got different personalities. Not everybody's going to answer the same way. Not everybody's going to speak in the same manner. So the other thing is that we're recording this. And so if you can't take notes fast enough, or there's a script that you really like and you want to master that, you can always go back. Kaylin will send that out, and you can re-listen to those. So sound good?
Perfect.
Awesome.
So before we get into some dialogue that you guys are facing with objections right now, let's talk about why we're here in this objections course. So why do we want to face objections?
Well, they're coming. So I'd rather practice with you guys than I do right when I'm sitting there with the potential check that could happen to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The more that we face objections together as a team and we talk about them, the more that you guys can take that into the field and be able to practice that and show that confidence more. So we want to face objections. Every agent is going to face them. It's a part of the job. So the better that we can get facing those objections ahead of time, the better that you guys are going to feel in overcoming them when you're face to face with them and sellers. So we assume that before we get into the material or any conversations, You know, you're in this class because you want to increase your listing inventory, you want to master good dialogue, and you want to differentiate yourself. So the more that we study and practice and the more that we spar, the more that you guys get more comfortable, confident in everything with facing objections down the road.
Hey guys, I want you guys to think of it as a mindset change. You know, a lot of people get really nervous at objections. They think, oh gosh, I hope they don't ask me this. I hope they don't ask me that. Whatever it is, whatever your sticking point is, we've got to change our mindset. First off, that you have to believe that sales is noble. You have to believe, second, that you are different and that you offer something different. And if you don't believe that, if you don't truly believe that, then you're going to have a hard time overcoming objections, because it's hard to sell something that you don't believe in. So first off, you've got to understand that you are different. You're going to these classes, you're studying, you understand the market. You're going to provide value in a way that other agents that you're competing against or potentially competing against don't bring. And so I just want you guys to kind of go into every listing with that mindset, expecting objections and hoping for them. Because just like Caitlin and Mel said, it's a chance to differentiate yourself. It's a chance to instead of being all like, you know, a lot of agents, they get nervous, they stutter, they're just not really sure because they haven't practiced. Instead, I want you to smile, lean in, and then go into whatever it is that you're going in. Smile, lean in, and say, you know what, Kaylin, I'm so glad you asked me that. Most people just assume all real estate agents are the same, but the reality is that I treat my business like a business. And that's pretty much how I almost go into every lead, something like that. And it allows me to collect my thoughts. It sounds professional. And it's something that just kind of rolls off my tongue. Yours can do, I want you guys to take whatever you guys learn from this class. Maybe you've already got something, but just, you got to practice it, because we don't want to practice on live ammo, just like it costs you money, just like Mel said. So we got to change our mindset first and foremost.
I love that point, Jason, and I want to kind of piggyback on it too, because the big thing about this class too, especially in the workbook, is, you know, we want to remember that we are going to overcome objections. We're going to be faced with objections, and those are true facts, but we want to train ourselves to prevent objections from happening before they even start to come up. And that is the systematic or strategic approach that's kind of taught in this class, also tying into listing conversion and pricing boot camp. Those classes all tie together with this one, and it teaches you that strategy of, from, you know, start to finish, kind of the dialogue and the processes and the steps of overcoming the objections as you're going through all of those steps. So it's important to remember that you're a consultant, and to have that mindset, like Jason was saying, walking in and understanding that your process and system that you've incorporated into your business is what's important, because it's going to lead those sellers down that self-discovery path. And it makes it easier on you being able to take them step by step and overcome them, any objection, before you kind of get to the end or to the closing. So let's start with some questions for you guys. So Mel or Jess, what's the best way to prevent an objection?
You want to go first, Jess?
There, I had to unmute. Sorry, I had to mute it for a while. They were crazy, just crazy. What was the question?
What's kind of the best way to prevent an objection?
I mean, you know what they're going to object to. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. So if you already come with those questions written out, and you can say, you know, let's talk about commission. I'm certain that you would rather have a lower commission. You know, you start the conversation. So if you bring it up first, it's not really an objection. You're bringing it to the table. You're leading the conversation.
Yeah, and you're kind of hitting it head on. That's great.
Bring cheese balls.
I do that similar to what Jess does. I just say, no, I'm going to probably assume you want to know what the fee is, correct? I mean, there is a cost to doing business, so let's just get it out there right now. And I use that form that we have, the 7% versus 6. And I just lead, my company and what I charge is 7%. And there's a reason behind that, why we charge 7. And I've already gone over all of our advertising, the things that we do. And I preface it by like, here's the value that I'm going to bring to you. We're going to go over dock permits, disclosures issues. We're going to get the house staged and all that. So I'm taking the risk before I'm even going to get paid, because there's not a guarantee your home's going to sell. So this is on me. But I absolutely want to try to earn as much as I can at the end of the day, because this is all that I do for my living. So this goes to cover expenses for my company and then to my family. But I mean, there is a charge to doing business, and this is what I charge.
Now, Mel, you're treating that 6 versus 7 dialogue script, which, by the way, guys, we updated today. I'll make sure it's in pipeline. It's also in this Dropbox link for you as well. So I'll make sure to pass it to everybody. But Mel, you're treating that sheet kind of like an official document with your sellers, just saying, this is kind of like what we do with RE/MAX. Is that right?
I do, and I bring our stats. So I'll show them our market share. And I just reiterate, it comes down to the numbers. I'm showing you what value already. If we have 40% market share, odds are someone from RE/MAX is going to show this property. And I want to be able to pay those other agents as well. We want to entice them, not take away from them from the very beginning. Not to say commission's not negotiable. It absolutely is. But we definitely want to try to give that agent the fair shot of earning their money. So let's start here. And if we have to move later, that's a whole nother conversation, but let us try to earn that first.
That's a great suggestion. Getting back to that question, the best way to prevent objections too, like they were saying, is, hitting it head on, talking about it ahead of time, not being afraid to talk about it. But mainly it kind of all boils down to, just working on conversational weaknesses as a whole. Developing confidence, showing it, hitting it head on, like they said. So those are all great points. The keynote on this slide that I really like is, the smartest way to prevent a common objection is to have kind of a system or a strategic approach to prevent it from the start. And this slide also gives really great information on, to prevent listing objections, you kind of have to allow the sellers to self-discover. You have to be that leader. And like Jess was saying, answer those questions head on, and because ahead of time that they're gonna ask, and over the years, you kind of get into a habit of realizing what's kind of common, and maybe you'll get hit with maybe some uncommon objections. But either way, be that leader.
Hey, Caitlin, you made a good point there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to take away all of your objections, but it's going to really help with your pricing objections. Like if someone wants to price too high, and that's if you truly are using the listing conversation piece in the pricing strategy, the 7-step pricing strategy. If you're allowing them to self-discover, that's going to eliminate a lot of the, hey, I want to price it up here. It's not going to eliminate the 7 versus 6. It's not going to eliminate the transaction fee. It's not going to eliminate some of our other objections, but it will tremendously help on the pricing. Will it always? Are you still going to get people want to? Absolutely. And so that's why we need this class. But kind of just a key thing is if we're tying all these classes in together, we're allowing them to self-discover. It's going to take away some of these things.
Absolutely. A couple other ways to prevent objections from the start, is move beyond opinion. People are always going to trust and follow what you can logically and tangibly explain. That's a belief. You want to become a strategist. These transactions can get emotional. You're dealing with properties that people have very highly emotional ties to. So we must be intentional and proactive. We kind of have to step away and be that consultant. You kind of want to track your results too. So by tracking your results, kind of where your weaknesses are. You also are able to use that to promote yourself with your sellers, like being able to say things like, I have a 97% list to sale price ratio, or I have X number of homes that are on the market before they sell. Just those key indicators of success can be highly powerful for you. And you also want to improve your results. And that's through sparring, you know, coming to these classes, making sure that what you're getting out in the field, you're bringing back here so we can talk about it and brainstorm together and find the best ways for you guys to not only do what you did in the field to get that knowledge, but to overcome or spar to get better. And then you just want to cause your results. You want to be proactive. You know, you want to take everything that you're learning and all of these things and kind of group it together and make sure that it's consistent over time. So Mel and Jess, are there any other ways to kind of prevent a listing objection that maybe aren't on this slide or that you can think about that would be helpful?
You want to go first?
You can. I don't think I
Well,
have.
I think in this market, in our area, we have to be realistic because I think we have a lot of D personalities. So I've really tried to study the personalities, but there are some people that are going to come after you for it and it's a game to them and they love it. And you're just going to have to figure out how to win it. I think I've been hit up more this last year for, you know, I will not pay that, and they get strong. I mean, they are sitting there like this and they are in your face of I will not pay it. I don't pay it in Kansas City. I don't pay it in St. Louis. There's no way. So it is just trying to prove over and over again of what your value is. And I explain now, I'm not the cheapest on the block. And real estate is more complex than it ever has been. Our area is different from St. Louis and Kansas City. It's not typically 2 showings and multiple offers. We have objections here and different things we have to do. Remember, I went over everything we have to do for that dock permit, the flood cert, this. You don't deal with that in the city. And I've got to get people to come by a want, not a need. So it's 2 different markets that we're dealing with. So that's why we do have the 7% in effect is where we're at. But I mean, realistically, it is tough. So I don't want anybody to think when you're going out there, it's not challenging. The one thing I've been doing is trying to slow people down. So I just won't answer them for a while till it gets really stupidly awkward. And then I'll go, well, what other questions do you have? Sometimes I won't even hardly address it. I said 7. So what other questions do you have? Because it is tough.
Mel, one thing I really loved about your answer to that question is that you take the time to explain our market differences, because I feel like a lot of our clients come down, you know, from metropolitan areas and surrounding areas, and they want to compare our market to, you know, the places that they currently live, and it is just not the same. So I think that overcoming that objection by explaining how the markets are different is really powerful too. Let's talk about you know, being kind of professionally attractive. That's a good thing to talk about with this class. You know, these are kind of some important qualities to become professionally attractive, but why do we want to be professionally attractive?
Well, I think if you're not going to get hired. A person judges you within the first 3 seconds. So if you come up looking like a slob, you've already hurt yourself. Now you've got to overcome every objection just by what you look like. So, I mean, you're going to a job interview. You better have your paperwork in order. You better look the part and talk the part. Otherwise, you're already out the door. You don't even get a shot.
Yeah, this goes hand in hand with what we talked about in our listing conversation class. Know where you're going. If you're going to a farm, don't show up in high heels. Don't show up in slacks. You know, be ready to show a farm. If you're going to home import Chima, you better look the part, because you're going to be competing against people. They're going to expect you to look like a professional. They are professionals and they're going to expect it. So you don't want to cause objections in your mind before you even get an opportunity to start speaking.
What'd you say, Jess?
Tom Lime's got a suit on every time you see him. Looks great.
Mm-hmm.
He wears it all day, every day.
Yeah, Tom Lime is a great example of, with this suit. But like Jason said, we want to be professionally attractive because we are professional consultants. I mean, this is a business, and no different than doctors, lawyers, anything that we compare our industry to, we want to have those same principles. And the more professional that we are and the more mindful that we are, you know, the better chance that we have of getting that listing. So it is important to kind of look through these dispositions and make sure that you're kind of adopting them. Why do we want to be confident?
No one wants to work with someone if they don't think they know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
Well, I think if you're going to overcome objections, they're hiring you to help them. So if you're not confident, and I'll even say, you know, if you want me to drop my commission right now, how do you think I'm going to negotiate for you? I absolutely believe in what my fee is, and I'm going to go to battle for you. But if I drop right now, just imagine what I'm going to do when that offer comes in. You know, if someone's willing to do it for 5% for you, I bet if you get an offer, they'll say, oh, they'll take less. Do you want that? Because I don't think you do.
That's so true.
Yeah. Hey, if you look up there, what your screen that you're on, we're not going to go through every one of these, but the left side shows the disposition that we want to have. We want to be confident, likable, approachable. And the opposite of that is timid, whatever. You can look through those on your own. There's a fine line. We want to be confident, but not arrogant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to be empathetic. A lot of times it's, you know, you've been across the seat from the other people. So the more you can use your own personal experiences in selling homes, the better. You know, I always use, you know, I always want to incentivize the buyer's agent. I want to make sure that they're as just excited to show my home as they are any home. I don't want my home to be put on the bottom because I'm offering 3% as opposed to 3.5%. You just never know. They may not get to that home by the end of the day. But just kind of look through those on your own time. We're not going to take the time to look through every one of those. Before we kind of go on, one of the things we want to make sure that we're covering the questions that you guys want to cover. And so what are some questions, what are some objections that you guys want to make sure that we cover in this class, or at least in the next 2 classes? What do you got? We've got 7 versus 6. What else do you guys want to cover?
Well, Jason, before we cover that, because I have a slide for that, I did want to have Mel with this particular slide kind of talk about some techniques that you also use, Mel. You know, like how you were talking about how you take like kind of a sip of water to slow down the conversation, or how you kind of do small techniques to redirect.
Well, the one thing I started doing, I always will bring in something for myself to drink, because I'll start, if I find myself getting nervous, like I always bring one of our cups. So if it's getting really heated, I just slow it down. And I slow a lot of things down anymore, because you'll get them where they get so fired up and tense, they have an objective and they just hammer you and hammer you. So I'll just kind of go and I'll lean back, and I won't give them eye contact either. I'll just take a drink and just slow it way down, because then they start to get flustered. And then it allows me then to kind of reel them back in. It's just kind of calming it down a little bit. So I'll do that. I'll start taking some notes, and I'll say, well, I am going to get to that question. However, one thing I wanted to make sure I understood right, you said you need to get out of here by what, June 1st? And then, you know, I'll, during my notes, because I'll ask them, what are your goals to have happen when you list your house? You know, is timing important to you? Are terms important to you? So then I'll kind of use that back at them. You know, if they say, no, we really need to move, we're getting transferred, this house has to go. So if they're coming to beat me up on commission, I'll go back and say, now let me understand, your goal is to get out of here by June 1st, and you want top dollar. That's the goal. Did I hear that right? And I'll ask them to repeat it again to me. And then I'll go back into the objection to say, okay, you brought up, you know, the fee again. Let's go back over that. Because for me to hit these objections, which you told me were the most important to you, I feel we really should pay that other buyer's agent, number 1. And 2, I want to incentivize myself and my team to do the very best for you. So I don't want to take the pay cut up first. Again, not to say I won't work with you. I'm going to be realistic here. I absolutely will. But let's start on the right page here for what we're trying to all agree to make this happen. And I do it very sweet, very calm, and then I'll wait a little bit, and then I'll be like, do you have any questions in on that? Is there any, are we on the same page, or is there a different objection that we should, go over or discuss? Because it has to be a win-win for both parties. I need to feel like it's a win on my end, and it's got to be a win on your end.
Jessica, do you have any kind of small techniques that you use when you are facing objections?
One thing is, it's what Mel said too. It's knowing who you're negotiating with, talking to, knowing that personality. So if you're not good at reading personalities or, knowing that personality up front, maybe do some homework on, what this personality, that personality, stuff like that. It's being able to read people and effectively, communicate with them, because you can't strong arm, someone that's exactly like you. So you got to really, I'm not explaining it very well.
No, I think you are. Yeah,
I think
personality.
you're doing a great job. If you get somebody who's an S, somebody who's an emotional, you want to play off of their needs. You want to play off. You want to go off. You want to show them numbers. You want to kind of walk them through the process. But if you get a high D, like, they don't want to look at all the numbers. You're not going to impress them with all the numbers. You may throw a few of them out or leave it for them to look at, but it's much more of a, you better be strong. You better know who you're dealing with. Exactly what you said, Jess. So I think it makes total sense. One thing that works really well, I learned this years ago, was that you just throw it out there, whatever the objection is, whatever it is, you just throw out your answer. That's my 7%, I charge 7%. And then you don't say anything. You just look them right in the eye and you just wait. Or maybe it's the price, maybe it's a price that you're trying to get them to go to, and you say, you can't list over 250,000. And you don't say anything, and you just wait. And I've been in conversations where literally it seems like 15 minutes. It's probably 30 seconds that nobody speaks, but it's usually the person that speaks first is the one that's going to fold. So you got to get really good at, I like Mel, she takes a sip to keep herself, she takes a drink to keep herself, and you kind of slow it down. But that's an art of doing, and it's something you need to practice. Again, it's not something that's going to come natural. So I would recommend doing it with a sparring partner.
Correct. Less is more. If you're the one doing all of the talking, that's not good.
Exactly right.
Good point. So now I kind of want to transition to like what Jason was saying. We want to make sure that we support you guys as much as possible, especially during this time that we find ourselves in, and it's new for everybody. So we thought it might be kind of fun to just brainstorm on some objections and make a list. I'm going to write them down on my notebook paper and just kind of keep track about maybe some objections that you guys are facing or have faced, what those were, how you kind of overcame them, and just brainstorm as a group. And I think that the more that we do that, the more that you guys can take that and overcome them in the field. So,
hey, before you answer any of them, let's just write the questions down. So we've got a list of questions, and then we'll go through each one of those questions kind of one at a time and make sure that we get some good scripts for each one of them.
Perfect. I'm ready. So whoever wants to shout out one, go for it.
I am very weak on my transaction fee. So I'd be curious how everybody, puts that in there. I've had to start writing it in my listing before I get there, because I will forget to tell them, or I don't even want to hit that objection because I'm exhausted by the time I'm done. I'm like, yeah, oh well. And I'm leaving money on the table all the time.
Okay. That's a good one.
Transaction fee, for sure.
Who has another one?
What are you looking for?
What about, I want to wait till spring. You guys ever get that one?
Yep.
I've got work to do on it. I've got things I got to get done first.
Is anybody hearing any like COVID-19 objections?
I haven't on the listing side necessarily, when you take the initial listing, but what I have had, like I just got an offer today. Now they're concerned because they're in Florida. Can they come back to Missouri and get their items out? So that is something I have not had before. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been busting my butt for 2 months. We listed during this and now you don't know if you can come back? Are you kidding me? You know, so it's overcoming. It's convincing them that it's safe and it's okay that they can come to their home. So it's more empathy than I've ever had to deliver, of hand holding. We're gonna be okay, I can help you. I just need you to get here and then I'll get it figured out. But I've got it figured out. I just need you to come here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if there's a way to navigate it, but I know I've had buyers who were ready to write and now they can't because lending has gotten stricter and they can't afford what they were able to maybe do a month and a half or 2 months ago.
Because of their business that was affected, what they're specifically doing. Is that why, Kelsey?
Well, like the minimum credit scores are changing. Like they can't even get a mortgage with a 710 credit score. They
I
aren't.
think it's 720 is the cutoff right now on a lot of them.
Yeah.
On all loans, or what's FHA?
I don't know. I just read something quick on secondary market. It said they were changing it to 720. I didn't look at the specifics.
Can anybody think of any more? I know 6 versus 7 is kind of a common one as well.
Well, we've been covering that. What about the my friend's a real estate agent. Anybody ever get that one?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And of course, high price, we had to talk about, they want to list too high, right? Nobody ever had that? I want to list too high?
Oh, never. They all just magically come in under.
I know you really want to list at 299, Jess, but we just want to get 250 out of our house.
Great, let's do it. 250, perfect.
Well, let's start talking about some of these that we've written down. Maybe it'll spark some more ideas to ask about objections you guys might be facing right now. So let's start with the first one that Mel had brought up, transaction fee. How to put it into the dialogue. Go ahead, Jeff.
Say, Mel, I will just put it in the listing contract. If they ask about it, or I'll quickly go over it. It's just a transaction fee, charged by our, I don't know, it kind of varies what I say, by our corporate office, our main office, Remax franchise. You actually don't pay it. You won't pay it until closing. So that's nothing really to worry about until we get to the closing table. And usually no one really says much about it. So I don't get a lot of pushback on it.
What are you charging?
Either 98 or 198. So I don't go all that high, just because it's getting pretty tough to even keep the 7% on commission. So, and we're getting more and more with the, some internet listing agent's going to list it for a flat fee of $500 and, this and that. So.
I want to mention to you guys, don't be afraid to up that transaction fee. We talk about it in almost every class, but I believe it was this class in SEEP the last time that we talked about it. And Kelsey, it may have even been with you, but I had brought up the fact that you guys can put that, on pretty well any excuse of, the company, if you do special marketing type things, if you have, if your team has special properties that only your team has access to, just any kind of those things, the MLS system or the Facebook Synergy group, those can all be reasons to kind of up that transaction fee, because you're providing, I guess, a more of a service to them. So you can utilize kind of some dialogue like that to maybe up it to $298 or $398 as well. But don't be afraid to do that, because we do offer our clients a lot of resources for that property to sell.
You know, it's interesting, like Susan charges $398 or $498, and she gets it. And I'm like, I think my issue is I'm the one in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, if I write the higher amount, I could always say, well, tell you what, I'll cut it in half. I'm still way ahead.
Right. And that's what
I have a zero.
True. I'm with you,
that's
Mel.
what I
I'm
tell
thinking
the
it
agents
now.
too.
I've been trying to encourage all of our agents to start high, and that way if they have to negotiate, it can make, you know, some people just want to feel like they win, especially the clients that we have. And so let them feel like they win, reduce it, you know, start at $398 and drop it to $198.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, you're at 7, and if you have to negotiate something, instead of cutting the 7%, you drop your commission, you know, you drop your transaction fee to 98.
Yep.
You know, there's lots of different ways to, you know, you can tie these in together to kind of negotiate them differently and use them against each other, you know, to use them in sync with each other. Make sure you're not cutting your own throat by, I see a lot of people, they get in negotiations in the process, and all of a sudden they just throw out, well, let's drop it to 6%. Well, how about instead of dropping it to 6%, you drop it to, everybody throws in $500. You make it a set dollar amount as opposed to just a percentage. To the seller, 1% is 1%, but for you guys, for us, 7 to 6, that's 14%. That's a 14% cut you're taking in your commission. And so maybe you, and this isn't helping you on the transaction, but maybe you throw in, you know, you say, hey, we've got that $198 transaction fee. I'd be willing to eat that myself and keep it at 7%. I mean, I just want you guys to, too many times I think we're too quick to cut our own money, as opposed to really trying to figure out a way. Every little dollar counts. I mean, $1,000, you know, I hear people say, well, I don't want to step over dollars to pick up dimes. So they want to just get it done and get to the next deal. And there's some truth to that. You don't want to lose a deal, but I think far too many times we live in this world of fear where we're not going to lose the deal. But if we would just learn to skin a cat a different way or come at it from a different angle, we'd be much better off. So, and that's not helping on the transaction fee. I was just went down a different.
No, I love what you said, Jason. And one thing that I want to piggyback with it too is, you know, you guys, again, getting back to confidence and believing in yourself, you know, your time is valuable, and that transaction fee gives you some extra, you know, a revenue stream that you guys can use too. So don't be afraid to ask for it and drop it down. Start high, come down low with it if you have to, or whatever. But I think that you deserve to at least try that for yourself. So
I know Karen she just throws it in like everybody else in the world has a transaction fee now. She's like, you know, you go to a car, you have a transaction fee. You go anywhere, you buy anything, there's a transaction fee. And unfortunately, now in today's world, the real estate market is no different. You know, you're working with a professional company, there's a transaction fee, and it's our company's fee. So and then she just leaves it.
Yeah, blame it on the company.
See, we can blame it on the company, but they always say, aren't you married to the broker? That really hurts me. I'm like, yeah. But I don't want to go home and tell them that either. I don't.
Yeah. Say it's headquarters. Say it's a franchise.
Yeah, I got to take it away from our own company.
Yeah, you gotta rework that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else got anything that they really like in transaction fees that they want to share? Anybody's got something that's strong?
If I'm only charging $98, I typically do not get any complaints at all. Now, I, on occasions, have added to that, but, and I have had complaints, but 98 typically doesn't really rock their world. So I'll go with that the majority of the time.
That's good. Hey, I
No,
think
but-
a lot of times our clients play off of us. Like if we're going over it and we pause or we're expecting an objection,
Yeah.
you're going to get an objection. So if you just let it roll, I charge 7%, I charge a $298 transaction fee. I'm going to, we're going to have this, we're going to do a 1-year listing agreement, whatever it is.
Okay.
You just keep rolling through the listing contract, and unless they stop you, more than likely they're not going to, a lot of times they won't go back.
Let's talk about the next one. They want to wait till spring or it's the wrong time of year.
I love this one.
That one, I hammer them on it. I'm like, why do we want to do that? In
Yeah,
the
which
spring
time of year
market,
is it?
well, if it's like even this year, well, let's wait till the summer because of COVID right now. And I'll say, why? The internet activity is out of this world right now. And there's other people that will not put their homes on the market now. This is the perfect time for you. We need to go forward, because if you've already made up your mind and in your heart you're done, then you need to follow your instinct. I mean, you called me for a reason. You want to do this, so let's just do this and we'll do it together. So I try to make it as a team. You made the decision. Let's just follow through with it. I don't want fear to block you.
Mm-hmm. Jess, can you add to that about time of year?
Oh, it just depends on, I've got an answer for any time of year. So let's say it's January, February, and they don't want to list. They want to wait until spring. And I'll tell them, I'll say, well, right now there's fewer inventory, on the market. You don't have a lot of sellers coming down in the snow and ice. Yeah, maybe you don't have a lot of buyers coming down as well. But the buyers that are willing to drive here from Omaha, Nebraska in a snowstorm, you darn well better believe that they are ready to write you an offer. So we are getting the highest qualified buyers right now. You're not getting a bunch of riffraff showings in a snowstorm, and you have very little competition. So now I'm gonna list. I would absolutely list right now. If you want to wait until spring, that's fine. We can wait in there, and then we can get all the little looky-loos. People start coming down in the summer while we're down here vacationing. Let's go look at some houses. You're not a buyer. You're just cruising around because you're bored, And not to mention, you're going to have now 20 homes to compete with instead of 2. So
I love how you break up kind of the seasons. That's awesome.
yeah.
Jess, that's a strong one. Don't forget, we've got that wintertime myth sheet. Send them that. I mean, the reality is that 24% of our sales happen in the winter months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a 4-month period, not a 3-month period, but still 24%, that's strong. And it's you're just, and that goes along kind of, Jess, you could use that even with COVID-19 right now. We're not getting as many showings. Online activity is crazy, and the people that are looking are buying.
Yeah.
Five showings to generate a contract right now. It's normally 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's strong, Jess.
Does anybody have anything else on just time of year? Or waiting till spring?
I know Kathy asked, well, what if they say, well, I want to wait to get a bunch of stuff done?
What I've done,
I'd ask more questions. What stuff are we talking about?
well, and what I've learned to do too with that now, I don't know how I'm going to get away with this with our new May 1st deal, but I try to get them to sign that day, because I do have a few sellers getting it ready. But what was happening is they were getting calls from other agents. And he's like, no, really you only have an authorization right now. I think I'll just let him show it. And it became a huge cluster. So anyhow, now I'm putting them into the listing and then saying it will be ready for market on this day. And that's when we'll input it to MLS. I don't know how I'm going to do that after May 1st. So I got to figure that out.
I think we can still do that if it's in writing, Mel. I need
We
to
can?
verify that. But I think as long as it's in writing, as long as it's by the request of the seller, and I'm not sure on that. That's a stupid new rule. I think if they request it, it's just like you can take a listing and not put it on the MLS if they require you not to. I mean, that's a possibility.
Well, and sometimes you do want them to do a little work. I mean, like the one I'm waiting on, I wanted them to repaint the front door and the garage doors. I wanted them to get it staged because we're pushing the market, and I'm like, I'm screwed if I do it right now. This is not, you know, your best move nor mine, but I don't want to lose the listing either because they're getting people knocking on the door. So now they're like, no, we've already listed with, you know, Melissa, you can call her, but we're going to do pictures in 2 weeks. So we'll let you know.
Yeah, and again, it just depends on what the items are. You know, if they're busy items that in their mind they need done, but they really don't, it just depends. You know, it depends on what you're going to say. But if it's items like Mel said that you really need them done, if you want to get a better return, you know, on the listing. So it's all about what you say too. You know, if you don't sound intelligent, you don't know what you're talking about and saying, yes, I do recommend that you don't let a buyer come in here before we replace this carpet, get new paint, and paint the front door, because instead of, you know, you getting the $250,000 offer, you're probably going to get a lot of $200,000 offers just based on what it looks like. But spending that extra $5,000 is going to, you know, probably bring you an extra $20,000. So you got to know what you're talking about too, and you've got to, you know what return and what they do need to do to the home to bring them the most bang for their buck. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry, tangent.
Well, it's a case by case, I think. And you have to, some people, you know, if you have an S personality, they worry about every little thing that you have to go ahead and counsel them and say, it's okay. You know, I'll give you this weekend, but we need to, you know, just do these 4 top items. Let's not worry about your list of 20. Hit the top 4 and we'll make it happen. But that's what I'm looking for. It's almost like you have to counsel them constantly, because some things are not a big deal. You know, if their closets are a mess, I'm like, stick it under the bed. They don't look under your bed. I can guarantee it. Even if you got little kids, throw the toys under the bed, make your closets look better. So just trying to think of things to make it easier on them, but get the same thing done.
I had a seller the other day. She had a showing. She put her dishes in the oven. She didn't have time to do them. She just got out laundry baskets. She's like, I just started putting much stuff in laundry baskets, put it in my car. We went and drove around.
Yeah.
Just God, I hope they don't open the stove.
They probably won't though.
Probably not.
No.
It's funny.
Let's talk about how, Kelsey, yours, that lending has gotten stricter, especially during this time. I think that's a really good one.
I just know I have like a client that wanted to get their house ready to list by summer, and now they know that they're a banker in St. Louis, and so they know that it's not an ideal time for buyers to be, you know, because I know it's listing objections, but they don't want to put it on the market when they think it's going to be harder to get a buyer qualified to make the purchase.
How much is it going to be listed for? Do you know?
Theirs is like 600.
It can be cash buyer. The likelihood of somebody having under 720 is slim to none.
So where are they from? Are they from Kansas City, St. Louis?
St. Louis.
So from everyone I've talked to in the Kansas City, St. Louis markets, those markets are still doing really well. You know, they're putting homes on the market. They're still, like Jason said, you know, you're still with COVID-19, the buyers that are coming in are really qualified buyers. You're not getting out in the midst of a national emergency just to like cruise around and look at some property. You're a buyer. You're a serious buyer. So you're not going to have 10 showings. You're going to have 5 and an offer, you know?
Yeah.
And the guys, and you're talking about lending, because obviously that could truly affect people with lending. But as a $600,000 buyer, and it's more than likely a second home, the likelihood that they have good credit is extremely high, not to mention that about 40% of those deals, and you can verify this with a lender, I know that's what it was about a year ago, about 40% of those are cash buyers.
Yeah.
So our market is just different. Now they may, because interest rates are so low, a lot of the people who are cash buyers are choosing to finance. But again, if they're choosing to finance, they probably got a better than a 720 score. Anyway, a lot of times they're keeping them in house because those type of people have relationships with local banks.
Well, and that's
That is a valid
situation, like obviously unique to me, but what if it was someone in the lower end, like a $200,000 to
That's
$300,000,
for sure. That's, I don't, that's for sure going to be a possibility. I
Mhm.
mean, much more likely to affect somebody in that price point than the $600,000.
And same thing what you're saying, Jason. I think it's bound to affect the primary market more than the secondary. Odds are if you're buying a second home, you've got your shit together. So you have a good credit score. This is your second home. You've either paid off the first one or you've got a lot of equity built into it. You have a good job. You don't go out and even buy a $150,000 second home purchase just for kicks. Usually you know what you're doing. And those are the kind of buyers that we have typically, not all of them, but typically. And the Kansas City, St. Louis markets are doing really well. So I'm surprised that they said that. Currently.
They work for a bank. I think that's their hang up is they kind of see the worst case scenario daily. So
They're anticipating what it could do for sure.
Yeah.
But I would just remind them that they're in a market, they're in a price point that's not going to be very likely. That's how I'd handle that.
yeah.
On this one, I just have to ask because I see it from other agents and I hear it from other agents, but I feel like it kind of fits that example, Kelsey. But are you guys ever getting anything or questions about, the housing market is going to crash or anything like that? I mean, I feel like that rumor goes around, but I don't know what you guys say to that particular kind of objection. I feel like it fits with that one. So
I have people that have said that, and also in relation to like the election coming up, like they think that's going to take a turn no matter what when that comes around.
A lot of people make those assumptions every year, and if you look, you can historically look back, and our market just doesn't change much. It doesn't matter if a Dem's in or a Republican's in. I mean, people from other parties always freak out. No matter which side of the table you're on, people freak out and think everything's gonna go to hell in a handbasket. The reality is people are still gonna buy homes. People are still gonna buy vacation homes. And where I go right now is that our inventory, we're so different than as far as a housing crash. In 2007 and 8, there was a huge inventory. Everybody but was buying 2, 3, 4 homes. They were flipping homes. That's not the case now. Right now we have an inventory shortage. We're not, in 2007, it was a subprime lending. They were just lending out to everyone. In today's market, that is not the case. There was somewhat of a shortage of inventory, although we still have enough to supply our buyers. When we come out of this COVID-19, it's going to be the same thing. There's going to be a lot of pent-up demand. And the reality is that people are still buying and selling. And when you look at interest rates, historically, this is just a fantastic time to buy. I mean, there's you can just kill them with the facts, I feel like.
And same thing that you're saying, this is a second home market. So someone that, again, the people that own homes here, this is a second home. You've got a good job. You've done things right in life. Maybe, you've got equity in the property. You didn't just borrow down to have $5 in your account to complete the purchase of a second home at $250,000. So you're not going to take a $100,000 haircut on your home if the economy crashes. In this market, they'll hold their property. They're just not going to sell and lose that. We've got really well qualified homeowners that own property here at the lake, and our market just doesn't take the hit that other parts of the country do, especially in the primary housing, again, where you scraped everything you had to put together 3% to buy your house. Just making sense what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Sometimes I think it, but it doesn't deliver.
No, it makes perfect sense, Jessica. Perfect.
Well, and I think if you look at what's going on with COVID-19, we can spin it to be a huge positive for us. This is something we've never seen. However, primarily we are a drive destination. There is going to be people that have fear that will not fly for a while, and that's just a fact. So therefore, I think we're going to have even more demand because those people don't want to get stuck in the cities again. They don't want to be in their downtown apartment in Kansas City or St. Louis. They want to have more freedom. We have more things to do outside. This is a drive 2 hour, they can get away. They're probably going to make the decision to buy here more so than, say, Florida, Alabama, somewhere in California. This is attainable and we're so affordable compared to those other markets. So this might be one of the best things that ever happened to our market.
And I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like based on everything you just said, Mel, I think we're going to be busy. I think we're going to see a crazy summer here at the lake, because you're not going to take that Disney cruise vacation or the vacation overseas out of fear. But I think they will come down to the lake and stay in the Midwest area, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I do too, Jess. I think that we could see a big spike in tourism and things, because people are gonna, as soon as it's all clear, you know, people are gonna want to go do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, the other thing I hadn't thought about, I can't remember who said this. They just told me this a couple days ago, but obviously we're always busy on good weekends in April and May. But if they open this back up in May, we're going to be like, schools are closed, sports schedules are closed or canceled. So people are going to be down here people are already down here right now. And at first I thought, well, maybe they'll go back whenever everything opens up and go back to work. But the reality is kids are off of school, sports schedules are canceled. So people it's going to be a long summer, I feel like, for people, and they're going to be at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I agree.
Well, and I think the transition for people working from home, they can work from their lake house or they can work down here, but it'll give something for the kids to do. They can go fish down on the dock, they can swim, and yet they'll still keep their routine because they're used to this now. It's the new norm to do Zoom meetings. We didn't have that even 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you guys, but I've seen, it's probably been in the last 3 years or so, I've seen a change in calls that we're getting for people that are buying a primary house, not a secondary home or a second home. It's a lot of people that do work from home, and the schools are really good down here. You know, they would have to send their kid to a private school that costs, I don't know, let's say $25,000 down in Dallas, Texas, and they work from home anyways. So I'm seeing more people moving here from all over the country, not just like the Midwest, but Arizona, California, Texas, you name it, because it's a good place to live. It's safe. You know, the schools aren't guarded with security guards. There's no like prison gang riots there. You know, it's just a safe, nice spot to like raise your kids, raise your family, and you're not in some tiny little apartment that costs you, you know, $5,000 a month to live in a shoebox. So I don't know what kind of buyers you guys have seen over the years, but that's what I feel.
I agree.
Well, and I don't think they believe us. You know, I'll tell them right now, my house is unlocked. Knock yourself out. But that's the way the lake is. You know, my car's unlocked here in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. We don't have what you have every day.
Right.
And it's affordable. Why would you not want to be in this lifestyle?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, guys, before we run out of time, does anybody have any questions about any that we have covered? I know that we didn't get to all of them, but again, we'll pick it back up next time, addressing those that we didn't get to and any more that you guys have.
Anyone doing free babysitting, you let me know. Got 2 kids, I'm gonna bring them by. Just let me know time.
You can drop them off at my house. My boys will take them.
Thank God. All right. See you in 30.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys can think of anything, please reach out to us after the class. I'll make sure to kind of get those resources together that we talked about even in the video and shoot it out to you guys. If you guys have an extra 5 minutes today or throughout the week, if you would love to do like a short video testimonial about something that you got out of the class, that would also be greatly appreciated. I like to share those with people that aren't attending the class because, you know, the more people that we get here, the more that we can spar. So I would really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys for being here.
And thanks for hosting this. Good to see everybody. I miss civilization.
Pretty awesome.
Have a great week, everybody.
All right, you too.